Welcome to the Emancipated Mind Show. My name is Anneshia Freeman. I'm also known as the locksmith because I make keys for locks in the mind. I'm an award-winning master-level therapist, and I also have an MBA. I'm the creator of a cognitive restructuring program entitled The Lies That Bind. This show exposes and challenges dysfunctional unconscious beliefs that cause people to engage in self-defeating behaviors repeatedly despite the consequences. This show is streamed live via Facebook and YouTube every Thursday from 7 o'clock p.m. to 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, welcome to the Emancipated Mind Show. Hello, my name is Anneshia Freeman. I'm also known as the locksmith because I make keys for locks in the mind. I'm a master's level therapist, and I also have an MBA. I'm also a person in long-term recovery. And what that means is I have not used any drugs or alcohol in over 22 years. I'm also a person in recovery from trauma and dysfunctional relationships. The Emancipated Mind Show is a show that addresses the root causes of many problems in people's lives. Problems such as self-sabotage, procrastination, people-pleasing, dysfunctional relationships, addictions, low self-esteem. The topic tonight is low self-esteem. This is part 1. I will do part 2 next Thursday. So tonight, I'm going to deconstruct 2 dysfunctional unconscious beliefs that produce low self-esteem. I'm going to talk about how these 2 dysfunctional beliefs are implanted into people's minds during the formative years. The brain is developed, the mind is programmed. The mind is programmed primarily by how a person is treated and by what a person observes during those critical foundational years. Now, there are exceptions to the rule. The mind can be programmed later. It can be deprogrammed and reprogrammed. That's my specialty, cognitive restructuring. So I'm going to talk about the dysfunctional unconscious belief, there is something wrong with you. And I'm going to also talk about the belief, compared to others, you come up short. These are 2 dysfunctional beliefs that are notorious for impacting people's self-esteem. So whenever you hear me use the terms issues, unaddressed issues, lies, or buttons that people push, I'm referring to the same thing as I use those terms interchangeably. I'm referring to dysfunctional unconscious beliefs that cause people to engage in self-defeating behaviors, despite what they consciously know they should do. So let's start. Let's talk about the formative years. So I'm going to start with the lie, there is something wrong with you. So this belief can be implanted into a child's mind via maltreatment. So let's say a child is raised in an environment in which he or she is told, there's something wrong with you. No, I mean, literally just having someone say this to them repeatedly. There's something wrong with you. Now, people use other negative terms. I've heard people say that their parents told them, you a little slow, or you a little off, or, you just like your father, or you just like your mother. And they didn't mean it in, as a compliment. So the belief or the lie, there's something wrong with you, can be instilled. Another way this belief can be put into a child's mind is by being rejected. So if a child is raised in an environment in which he or she is rejected by peers or parents or siblings or extended family members, but this child observes other people being treated kindly or other people being treated with respect, then the belief, compared to other people, there must be something wrong with you. And another way is if a child is being abused mentally, emotionally, physically, if a child is abused, children don't know how to interpret that as being an issue with the abuser. One noted expert says, children define themselves according to how they are treated. It's during those critical foundation years when their unconscious self-concept is being programmed. So children don't know how to say, well, my parent is being mean to me. My parent needs to go to some classes and learn how to raise their children in a more appropriate manner. Children don't have enough information to be able to talk to themselves like that. I saw one quote that says, be careful how you talk to your children because it becomes their inner voice. Another way this lie, there's something wrong with you, can be instilled into a child's mind is by being told you will never amount to anything. So the belief makes its way into the child's mind and will follow them into their adult lives if there's no intervention. Another way this lie, there's something wrong with you, can be instilled into a child's mind is via observation. So let's say a child is raised in an environment in which he or she witnesses people being treated better than the child is being treated. So the child doesn't know how to define that other than attach what's happening to his or her self-worth. So if a child observes people being admired or celebrated and appreciated while the child is being ignored, neglected, dismissed, then the lie, there is something wrong with you, will find its way into a child's belief system. So let's talk about how another lie that affects people's self-esteem can be implanted during the formative years. So if a child is raised, so we're talking about this belief, compared to others, you come up short. So if a child is raised in an environment in which he or she is compared to others and told he or she is coming up. So a lot of people, and I don't believe parents don't do this intentionally. They don't know. I've worked with a lot of parents over the 20 years in my career as a counselor and as a therapist. I work with a lot of parents, and I've never met a parent that said to me, Anneshia, I programmed my child's mind with a bunch of dysfunctional beliefs on purpose. It doesn't happen like that. They're usually not aware that they are playing that major of a role in the child's belief system. And so a lot of parents will say, why can't you be more like your brother? Or why can't you be more like your sister? Or why aren't you more like the neighbor's children? And so the child is programmed to believe, hey, compared to my siblings or compared to my peers at school, I'm coming up short. Another way this lie can be instilled into a child's mind is by being mistreated, ignored, neglected, while others are being treated kindly and receiving attention. So the child's mind is trying to figure out, like, what's going on here? These other people are being treated kindly and I'm being abused. I'm being neglected. So there must be something wrong with me in comparison to these other people. Another way this lie, compared to others, you come up short, can be implanted into a child's mind is via observation. So if a child observes others being treated well while the child is being abused or neglected, then the belief will find its way into the child's mind. If a child observes other people living a good quality of life while the child and his or her family is living a poor quality of life, then the lie, compared to others, you come up short, can be implanted. So this lie will follow, both of these lies will follow a person into his or her adult life. And these beliefs will affect the person who's afflicted by them. These beliefs will affect the person's personal life and the person's professional life. So let's start with personal life. So these lies can cause people to be in dysfunctional relationships because the lies are saying there's something wrong with you. Compared to others, you come up short. So you're going to have to settle for whatever type of relationship that you get. You're lucky someone's even with you. Because remember, the lie is saying there's something wrong with you. They could be with someone who's not tainted. Because this lie, it's not so much what the lie is saying, It's what the lie is implying. Because the truth is, there's some things wrong with all of us. Every human being on the planet Earth is a mixture of weaknesses and strengths. So it's not so much what the lie is saying as what the lie is implying. So it will tell the afflicted individual, you have to settle for this dysfunctional relationship. You should just be glad someone's with you. The same type of conversation comes from this belief. Compared to others, you come up short. The belief will say, well, you should be happy to have someone who's willing to be in a relationship with you, because compared to you, they could be with someone much better than you. But this is an unconscious conversation. And if you notice, these are my cognitive restructuring cards. If you notice around these dysfunctional beliefs, I have feelings. So I'm going to read the feelings that these beliefs produce. So the lie, there's something wrong with you, can make a person feel rejected, hurt, self-conscious, inadequate, cynical, frustrated, and envious. So a person is experiencing all of these feelings while trying to maintain their relationship. But if the relationship is dysfunctional, they should be trying to get out of the relationship. But the lie is saying, hey, you have to stay. You have to stay no matter how you feel, no matter how you're being treated. You have to stay because you're lucky to have someone. That's low self-esteem being produced by a distorted belief system, being produced by some cognitive distortions. The same with this lie. These lies are like, they're very similar. The same with this lie. Compared to others, you come up short. It makes a person feel wounded, envious, panicky, rejected, self-conscious, regretful, worthless, degraded. And it will tell a person, you have to stay in this relationship. You have to stay in this dysfunctional relationship because the person could be with someone much better than you. And if you lose this person, you're going to be alone for a long time because people can be with other people who are better than you. Thus saith the lie. So these lies that produce low self-esteem will tell a person, it will tell a person that they have to accept maltreatment, not just in their relationship with a significant other, but from coworkers, from other family members, extended family members, from their neighbors. Really, these lies can cause people to accept maltreatment from strangers. I have watched people in my day-to-day life when I'm out running errands and doing things. I have observed people like in the grocery store. And I use this example a lot, but I see this a lot in the grocery store. And a cashier is putting all of their heavy items into one bag. And I can see the look on their face and they won't say anything. They won't say anything. That's low self-esteem. If that will tell a person you don't have a right to protect what belongs to you because they're afraid of the reaction from a stranger. That's low self-esteem. That says you don't even have a right to stand up for yourself when engaging with someone you're spending money with, if they're doing something inappropriate with what you're purchasing. Another way these two beliefs can affect a person in their personal life is it can cause them to treat other people better than they treat themselves. People who struggle with low self-esteem treat other people better than they treat themselves because the lie is saying there's something wrong with you. Compared to others, you come up short. Therefore, you have to treat people a certain way so that they can tolerate you. These beliefs make individuals compensate for their presence with goods and services, which is another belief under the umbrella of low self-esteem. You have to compensate for your presence with goods and services. But these two beliefs are right there in the equation. There's something wrong with you. Compared to others, you come up short. Therefore, you have to pay people to be around you. You have to pay people for tolerating you for short increments of time. Thus saith the lies. Another way these lies can affect a person's personal life is it can cause individuals to make self-debasing remarks. A lot of times people who have low self-esteem, they put themselves down. They don't even, the internal dialogue, which is unconscious, is saying there's something wrong with you. People are only tolerating you. Compared to others, you come up short. And so a person will say something like, I know I'm probably getting on your nerves. I just wanted to ask you a question, or I'm gonna be out your way in a minute, but you got 2 seconds, and they really don't want 2 seconds. They really want to talk to somebody for a few minutes, but the lies are like, hey, you are a burden. You are interacting with you is something that people don't have to do. So you have to apologize for the interaction because there's something wrong with you. And compared to others, you come up short. These people could be talking to someone else. These people could be interacting with someone else. So apologize for your presence. Make self-debasing remarks. Put yourself down. A lot of times when people are making those self-debasing remarks, like making a negative comment about their appearance or their weight or their intellect, they are parroting. Parrot, like a parrot, the birds that repeat, they are parroting what their unconscious internal dialogue is saying to them. Like if they make a mistake, their internal dialogue will say, you so stupid. So they'll make a mistake and be like, oh, I'm so stupid. People who don't have a dysfunctional internal dialogue, they don't say I'm stupid when they make a mistake. They make a mistake and they say, note to self, oh, won't do that again, or something like that, but they don't beat themselves up. But these lies that produce low self-esteem cause people to make debasing comments. Another way these two lies that affect people's self-esteem, that produce low self-esteem, can affect the individual is it can cause them to sabotage potentially healthy relationships out of fear of rejection. So people who struggle with the lie, there's something wrong with you, and compared to others, you come up short. Sometimes they will meet a person who really likes them, a person who's interested in developing a committed relationship with them. But the lies make them question a person's interest in them. So they may even say something to the individual like, why are you with me? Why are you hanging out with me? What do you really want? Right? Because the lie is saying there's something wrong with you. They couldn't possibly be interested in you for real. So they'll start questioning the person and making snide remarks or cynical remarks. And what they're doing is sabotaging the relationship. Some people who struggle with low self-esteem, who struggle with these lies that produce low self-esteem, they will end a relationship when there's nothing wrong, because that fear of rejection being produced by lies like these, the fear of rejection is tormenting them. So they get tired of being tormented. So they said, you know what? I'm just going to end the relationship because I already know, because the lies are telling them they're going to leave you anyway. Soon as somebody better comes along. So you might as well go on and end it first so you can feel a little better about it ending, because you can tell people you ended it instead of people finding out that the person left you for someone else. So they have this fear that they're going to be replaced. So they will sabotage a relationship or end the relationship for no reason except for the unconscious fear, that fear of rejection. They don't want to feel it. Another way these two lies can affect a person is it can cause the person to isolate. And that's another belief. Personal safety requires isolation, but they collaborate with these two beliefs. There's something wrong with you, and compared to others, you come up short. People who feel like, hey, I am tainted, there's something wrong with me, they tend to isolate because they have to feel these feelings when they're around people. Now, a person who struggles with low self-esteem, they can trigger their own issues or their own beliefs that they struggle with, but it's hard for them to be around people, because let's say they're at a outing with several people and they're out having dinner with a group of people from work or something. The beliefs are talking to them. The beliefs are saying there's something wrong with you compared to all these people sitting here. And then this belief over here is doing a comparative analysis. It's running in the background of the person's mind, like the operating machine, like the operating system on my computer. So they sitting there having dinner, and the lie compared to others, you come up short. This is how this lie works. It will make a person compare their weaknesses to other people's strengths. This lie will also have people ignore their strengths and ignore other people's weaknesses. So by the time the analysis is done, the afflicted person is coming up short. So they can't even enjoy dinner because the lies are having a conversation with them. They feel awkward, they feel uncomfortable. And then on the way home, they got to be tormented by these lies on the way home. On the way home, the lies are saying, boy, you sure said something that was not very intelligent. The lies caused them to ruminate about conversations that they had with people, or ruminate about a facial expression. Like, did you see how the lie would be like, did you see how she looked at you when you asked that question? The lies will say, oh, she thought this, and the other people thought this when you asked that question. There's something wrong with you. Compared to others, you come up short. So now let's talk about how these lies affect a person and can affect a person in their professional life. But first, I'm going to read an excerpt from my workbook, The 100 Most Commonly Seen Unconscious Lies and the Keys to the Locks. I'm going to read a section about activation, because these lies, these dysfunctional unconscious beliefs, can be triggered by facial expressions, vocal tone, voice inflection, and body language. They can be triggered by what someone says, what someone doesn't say, how they say it. And you can also trigger your own beliefs or push your own buttons, which are by your own internal dialogue. So I'm going to give an example of a person who is afflicted by this issue or this belief being taken advantage of, because these are, like I said, the buttons that people can push. You hear people say, he pushed my button or she pushed my button. And you're like, well, what button did they push? Most people be like, well, I don't know. I just know they pushed my button. So these dysfunctional unconscious beliefs are the buttons that people push. And every button makes you do a particular thing. Every button makes you feel a particular way. And so how do people know what buttons to push? You tell them. You tell them by what you say, by what you don't say, by what you do, and by what you don't do. And on my cognitive restructuring cards, I have the clues. I put one. Now, there's more than one clue that you give off that you struggle with an issue, like compared to others, you come up short. But just for space, I only put one on the card. So one way that individuals alert others that they struggle with the comparison belief is by comparing themselves to others or acting envious of other people or acting intimidated or jealous of other people. A way that people let others know that they're afflicted by the lie, there's something wrong with you, is by putting themselves down and comparing themselves to others. So I'm going to read an excerpt from my workbook in which a young lady is afflicted by these beliefs, and she's interacting with a manipulator who has seen by her actions and have heard via her conversation that she suffers with low self-esteem, these lies that cause low self-esteem. So I'm going to read the intro, then I'll read the statement that the gentleman says to this lady who triggers this lie, compared to others, you come up short. Some people make statements intentionally with a certain facial expression and a certain vocal tone in an attempt to see if they can activate an issue in you. Their intent is to manipulate and or control the person, also known as pushing buttons, with the activation code. For example, let's say a guy comes up to a young lady that he's seeing that he knows is afflicted by the lie, compared to others, you come up short. And he says, guess who's trying to date me? Now, just that simple sentence. Well, guess who's trying to date me? I use that terminology so everyone can understand. But for certain areas, there's another way of saying it. That he would say, guess who's trying to holler at me? Which means, guess who's trying to date me? So if the woman he's talking to is afflicted by the lie, compared to others, you come up short and there's something wrong with you, those two lies could get triggered which would also trigger the lie, you have to compensate for your presence with goods and services. And so a manipulator who has been sufficiently clued that the person he or she is trying to control is afflicted by those lies will use the guess who's trying to talk to me or guess who's trying to date me activation code to cause the lie afflicted person to believe he or she is in a contest with another person. Once activated, the lie afflicted person may begin purchasing the manipulator gifts and or providing the manipulator with services to try to outdo his or her competition. And in a lot of situations, what no one was even trying to talk to him or her, to the manipulator, right? The manipulator just used the activation code. But in some cases, there is someone else trying to talk to the manipulator. And you know who it is? Somebody that got the same issues as the person that he's talking to. Because now I'm going to read the truth response. Let me check my comments here. I see comments. Hi, Leah. Hi, Carolyn. So let me read how someone would respond instead of react who believes the truth, which is on the back of the card, which I'm going to read shortly. So let's say the manipulator is trying to push the buttons of this woman, but she's been doing some work. She's been doing some cognitive restructuring work. So when he comes with his activation stimuli, oh, guess who's trying to go out with me? Guess who's trying to date me? And the person who operates out of the truth will say to themselves, I have too much self-worth and value to date a known manipulator like you. So it is irrelevant who's trying to talk to you. And the person who's operating out of the functional beliefs, which are on the back of the card, they might not say it out loud. They shouldn't say it out loud because they might get in trouble. It might cause the person to get into a physical altercation with them. But in their mind, they should be saying, oh, I know who tried to talk to you. Somebody with low self-esteem, somebody who don't know you well, someone who's going to be horribly disillusioned in about 2 weeks. That's what that'll be their new internal dialogue, when they after they've done some work on themselves, because their internal dialogue would change when they believe the functional belief. They would say to themselves, I deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And that is not how you treat people. My personal safety is too important to date someone like you who mistreats people and are known to do so. I deserve the best that life has to offer. And that includes relationships. And so I'm going to read this last part in this section of my workbook. Some manipulators would not even try this activation code on a person with a positive belief system because the manipulator has been sufficiently clued that the person is not afflicted with the lies that would allow him or her to be controlled and manipulated. Conversely, some manipulators will try anyone because some are too arrogant to believe that their magic will not work on everyone. Some manipulators are so arrogant, they believe they can manipulate anybody into doing what they want them to do, while others enjoy a challenge. In any case, the lack of response to their activation code will alert the manipulator to the fact that he or she is barking up the wrong tree, and they will probably seek more viable candidates. They will leave the person with high self-esteem alone because manipulators know when they talking to someone with high self-esteem, they'll be like, this person is too much work. I'm gonna go find somebody who it works on the first time I tell them somebody trying to talk to me, and so I can make them go to the mall and buy me an outfit. Okay, so let's talk about how these two lies, there's something wrong with you, and compared to others, you come up short, can affect a person in his or her professional life. So these lies can cause a person to accept low-paying jobs as their lot in life, meaning that it's like we could all start at certain jobs and have to start there when we're young, and then we can progress and build our resume and go get education, go to the university or go to vocational training programs and advance over time. But these lies up under the umbrella of low self-esteem will cause a person to believe that they have to work 2 or 3 low-paying minimum wage jobs for the rest of their life. 20 and 30 years trying to make it, because the lies are saying there's something wrong with you. You can't graduate college like other people. You can't complete that vocational training program. The lies will tell them, compared to others, you come up short. Even if you did complete college, they go hire other people who are better than you. You won't get a job even with the education. And so a lot of people stay in low paying jobs because of these lies. Another way that these lies can affect people is it can keep them from going after promotions, because there's some individuals who are afflicted by these lies who will do their due diligence. They'll go to school, because they have beliefs that will force them to pursue their academic goals, but they still can suffer with low self-esteem at the university. They can still graduate and get a good job and still walk around feeling like, compared to others at the company, they come up shorter. There's something wrong with them. And a lot of people, call it imposter syndrome. They feel like they don't even deserve to be there, although they have the same credentials as other people who are there. So when an opportunity for an advancement comes up, the company posts a position that's open and you can apply for this position. People who are afflicted by these low self-esteem lies, a lot of times they won't apply for the position. They'll see the email or they'll see the posting in the break room on the bulletin board, and they'll stand there and read the promotion while they, the notice on the bulletin board while they drinking their coffee. But the lies start talking. Compared to others, you come up short and there's something wrong with you. Those lies start telling them, don't even apply. They're not going to give you that promotion. And whoever applies, the other people who apply, they're all better than you. They're all more qualified than you. And so many people talk themselves out of opportunities that they could avail themselves of, and they don't know why. They make what one noted expert says cause left brain confabulations, plausible but untrue reasons for their behavior. So they'll say something like, I don't really want that job. There's probably more pressure than the job I have now, or I don't really want that. It's not that much of a raise, and I may have to work a few more hours a week, and they'll talk themselves out of it for years. So I see I have a few comments, so I'm going to take a second to read some of the comments. Oh, well, thank you, Liv. That's awesome. Thank you. Okay. All right, Leah. I didn't read it out loud because I don't know if you wanted me to read it out loud. So that's why I didn't read your comment out loud. So but thank you very much. Another way that these lies up under the umbrella of low self-esteem can affect a person in his or her professional life is it can cause the person to do other people's job, because these lies make people seek external validation, because the lies are telling them you are tainted. There's something wrong with you. So the person seeks validation from outside sources. So they'll do things like do their coworker's job, even do their supervisor's job, trying to win some type of approval, some type of validation, because the lies are invalidating them on a daily basis. So they go through a lot of different antics trying to obtain external validation. Another way that these lies could affect a person in his or her professional life is it can cause a person to accept abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse from coworkers or supervisors, because the lies are saying, hey, you are lucky that they let you work here. So you just have to accept whatever's happening because they could have somebody else here who's better than you. Thus saith the lies, because that's not true. So I'm going to read the functional beliefs that challenge these lies. So first, I'm going to read the functional belief that challenges the lie. There is something wrong with you. There are some things wrong with all of us. Every person on this planet could use some improvement. We are all mixtures of weaknesses and strengths. You are not so awful. The way you were programmed to think was awful. There's something with your thought pattern, not with you. Do not allow anyone, including yourself, to put you down and compare you to others. Accept yourself with all your good traits and bad traits. Work on the things about yourself that you don't like and that are in your power to change. Accept the things about yourself that you cannot change and ask for help recognizing the difference. There is no perfect person on this planet. Stop looking at other people's assets only. See yourself and others holistically. We all have flaws. So now I'm going to read the functional belief that challenges the lie: compared to others, you come up short. It is ridiculous for me to compare myself to others, seeing how there is only one me. I am not in a competition to prove I am better than or less than other people. I will not allow myself or anyone else to put me in a contest with others. There are qualities that I have that are unique to me, and no one else on the entire planet has them. There are some things about me that I need to work on, but that's the case with everybody. There is no perfect person, and I should not put that unrealistic expectation on myself. Self acceptance is a vital part of a happy life, and I need to start practicing it so I can become good at it. I will accept what I cannot change and change what I can. I am a mixture of weaknesses and strengths, just like the rest of humanity. So, we got a few more minutes left, and I will take any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I can see when you put a comment. I'm going to share a couple other beliefs or dysfunctional unconscious beliefs, lies that are under the umbrella of low self esteem. So, this week, as I said earlier, I'm talking about victim based beliefs that produce low self esteem. Next Thursday, I'm going to do part 2 of low self esteem, but I'll be talking about villain based beliefs. So, I have been doing this work for over 20 years, and over the course of my career, I have created an extensive database from assessing people of dysfunctional unconscious beliefs. So, but there's some that I kept seeing over and over and over and over in these assessments. So I have the 100 most commonly seen unconscious victim lies and the 100 most commonly seen villain lies. So next week, I'll talk about some villain based beliefs that produce low self esteem. So even though there's people who walk around all acting mean, you just because a person is acting mean doesn't mean that they have high self esteem. So I'll talk about these villain based beliefs next week that produce low self esteem. So let me see if I have a question here. So, okay. No, it's not a question. Okay, Leah. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to talk about some other victim-based beliefs out the blue sets of cards that produce low self-esteem. So we've been talking about there's something wrong with you, and compared to others, you come up short. So a lot of people who struggle with low self-esteem, they also struggle with the lie: people can continuously mistreat you as long as they apologize. Because these beliefs under the umbrella of low self-esteem, they all collaborate with each other. So the lie, there's something wrong with you, will say, hey, people can continuously mistreat you. You know why? Because there's something wrong with you as long as they apologize. Even if they don't apologize, you have to accept the maltreatment because there's something wrong with you. You see how these lies like to partner and collaborate with each other? So I'm going to read the functional belief that challenges the lie: people can continuously mistreat you as long as they apologize. Forgiveness is a spiritual principle, and so is responsibility. It is your duty to yourself to ensure that you are protected from people who constantly mistreat others. When forgiving an individual, the next step is to set a boundary, meaning, depending on the nature of the offense, you can determine if you choose to interact with that person in the future. If you select to interact with that individual in the future, you should inform him or her that the maltreatment is unacceptable and will not be tolerated again. If the person offends in the same manner, it's up to you to determine if he or she needs a stronger boundary or if you need to end the association. A stronger boundary consists of you, once again, informing the person of what he or she did wrong, what you will not accept in the future, and the steps you will take if the offense reoccurs. For example, in the relationship, or never lend the person any money again, and so forth. Never threaten to do anything illegal before it comes to that in the connection. And I always put a warning on any of the belief cards where we're talking about abuse. If you are in a domestic violence situation, call a program for help. Don't try to go set a boundary with the person who's physically attacking you. There's lots of domestic violence programs that you can Google online, and they can help you. And so I'm going to see if we have any questions so far. Okay. Oh, yeah. That's right. I didn't make that point. But yeah, a person can be afflicted by both victim and villain beliefs. A person can act out of a victim belief at 9 o'clock and switch to a villain belief at 9:02. In my program, The Lies That Bind, we call it VV ambidextrous. Now, some people, they primarily, most of the issues they struggle with are in the blue set, the victim-based beliefs. But some people, most of their struggle is from these villain-based beliefs. Then you have the people who struggle with both. So that's all for this episode. This is episode 10 of the Emancipated Mind Show. If you would like more information about my work, or if you are interested in purchasing any of my workbooks or the card sets, then you can purchase this workbook that I read from tonight and the cards together. They come together as a set on my website, Anneshia.consulting.com. You can go to the store page. I also have other workbooks, such as the adult reenactment of the childhood script and the workbook, My Unaddressed Issues Make My Budget and Make My Schedule. Each one of these dysfunctional unconscious beliefs make demands on people's time, money, and their energy. That's all for this week. I look forward to seeing you next Thursday back here for episode 11, part 2 in the series on low self-esteem. I also do a Facebook Live series on Tuesdays at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for 30 minutes. I'm in the middle of a series entitled What Other People Think is OPP, Other People's Property. And so I want to thank everyone that is tuning in. I want to thank you, Carolyn, Leah, Serena. Thank you for joining me tonight. And I look forward to seeing you in the future on one of my live series. Have a good rest of your evening. Thank you for watching the Emancipated Mind Show. Join me every week live on Facebook and YouTube on Thursdays from 7 o'clock p.m. to 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For more information about my products and services, feel free to visit my website, AnnesiaConsulting.com, or my website, AnnesiaSpeaks.com. I can also be reached via email at afreeman@AnnesiaConsulting.com. I'll see you next week.